Stop right there.
I'm just heading to my friend's house.
You don't live around here.
I'm invited. I'm not doing anything wrong.
I said stop moving. I'm just calling him so you...
The sun came up slow that morning, shining soft light on Maple Ridge Drive. It was one of those streets where the grass was always cut short, the houses were big, and the air smelled clean, like money and morning coffee. White fences lined the sidewalks, and shiny cars slept quietly in driveways. Nothing bad ever happened there. At least, that's what people believed. It was the kind of neighborhood where dogs barked only once or twice, kids rode bikes without fear, and police cars passed through just to remind everyone that they were watching. It was a normal day. Too normal. And that's what made everything that happened later feel so wrong. Before we go any further, let me ask you something real quick. Where are you watching this from right now? Are you in the US, Africa, Europe, or somewhere else? Drop it in the comments. And if stories like this matter to you, stories that show the truth, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hype it up, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This isn't just a story. It's real life for many people. Now, back to Maple Ridge Drive. Around 10:15 that morning, a man named Darren Cole walked down the sidewalk with his phone in his hand. Darren was black, tall, and neatly dressed. He wore a blue button-up shirt, dark pants, and clean shoes. He looked like someone going to a meeting, because that's exactly what he was doing. Darren worked as a small business consultant. He helped people grow their businesses, plan budgets, and solve problems. That day, he had been invited by a friend, Evan Brooks, who lived in that neighborhood. Evan had just started a tech company and wanted Darren's advice. Darren had parked his car 2 streets away because Evan told him parking was tight near his house, so Darren walked, calm, focused, mind on work. He checked his phone for the address again, making sure he didn't miss the house. That's when a police car slowed down behind him. The car was quiet at first, rolling like it was just passing by. Then it stopped. The door opened. Officer Ryan Holt stepped out. He was white, mid-30s, wearing dark sunglasses even though the sun wasn't that bright. His hand rested close to his belt as he looked Darren up and down. "Hey," the officer said, "stop right there." Darren turned around, confused but calm. "Yes, officer?" "What are you doing around here?" Holt asked. "I'm just walking to my friend's house," Darren replied. His voice was steady, respectful. The officer looked past Darren, then back at him. "This isn't really a walking neighborhood." Darren frowned slightly. "I parked nearby. I'm here for a business meeting." Officer Holt crossed his arms. "Who's your friend?" "Evan Brooks. He lives a few houses down," Darren said, pointing lightly ahead. Holt shook his head. "You don't belong here." Darren blinked. "Excuse me?" "This neighborhood has had complaints," Holt said. "You need to turn around and leave." Darren's chest tightened. He stayed calm. "Sir, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm invited. I just need to—" "I said leave," Holt snapped, his voice louder now. A few curtains nearby shifted. Someone was watching. Darren took a breath. "Sir, I'm here for work. I'm not causing trouble." Officer Holt stepped closer. Too close. "You're being suspicious." Darren shook his head slowly. "How?" There was a pause. A heavy one. Darren turned slightly, not to run, not to fight, just to step aside and call Evan. That small movement changed everything. Without a warning, without a shout, without a warning shot. Bang! The sound cracked through the quiet street like thunder. Darren fell forward onto the pavement. Silence followed, then screams, and Maple Ridge Drive was never the same again. The sound of the gunshot didn't fade right away. It bounced off the houses, slid across the clean lawns, and stayed in the air like something evil that didn't want to leave. Darren Cole lay face down on the sidewalk, his body still, one arm stretched forward like he had been reaching for help. Blood slowly spread under him, dark against the pale concrete. For a moment, no one moved. Not the officer, not the people inside the houses, not even the birds in the trees. Officer Ryan Holt stood frozen, his gun still pointed forward, his hand shaking. He stared at Darren's back, then at the ground like he couldn't believe what he had just done. His mouth opened, but no words came out. This was not how things were supposed to go. At least, that's what he told himself. A woman across the street screamed. Her name was Linda Myers, and she had been watering her flowers when she heard the shot. The hose fell from her hand, water spraying everywhere. "Oh my God," she yelled. "He shot him." Another neighbor, Tom Willis, ran out of his house barefoot, his phone already in his hand. "I'm calling 911, he said, even though the police were already there. His hands shook as he recorded everything. The camera caught Darren's still body. It caught the officer stepping back. It caught the fear on Holt's face. Officer Holt finally spoke into his radio. "Shots fired," he said, his voice low and tight. "Suspect down." Suspect. That word hung heavy. Darren was not moving. His phone lay a few inches from his hand, the screen still lit. Evan Brooks's name was on it. He had been trying to call his friend. That small detail would later break many hearts. An ambulance arrived fast. So did more police cars. Red and blue lights filled the street, flashing against the big white houses like a bad dream. Paramedics rushed to Darren, turning him over carefully. One of them shook his head. Another checked for a pulse longer than needed, hoping for a miracle that never came. "He's gone," the medic said quietly. Evan Brooks arrived just as they covered Darren with a white sheet. He pushed past the tape, his face pale, his voice cracking. "That's my friend," he said. "Why is my friend on the ground?" No one answered him. Officer Holt was pulled aside by two senior officers. They spoke to him in low voices. Holt kept saying the same thing over and over. "He moved. I felt threatened. I had no choice." But witnesses were already speaking. Linda pointed with shaking hands. "He didn't run. He didn't attack. He just turned." Tom uploaded the video before anyone could stop him. Within minutes, it was online. Within an hour, it was everywhere. People watched the clip again and again. They saw Darren walking calmly. They heard his quiet voice. They saw the turn. They heard the gunshot. There was no warning, no struggle, no danger. By evening, the story had a headline. "Watch. Police shoot a black man from behind. Say they had no choice." Protesters gathered near the police station that night. They held signs with Darren's name written in bold letters. Candles lit the sidewalk. Mothers hugged their children tighter. Fathers stood in silence, anger burning behind their eyes. Inside the station, Officer Holt handed over his badge and gun. He was placed on leave while the investigation continued. That phrase made people angry. Too many times it meant nothing would happen. But this time felt different. The video was clear, the witnesses were many, and the truth was loud. Darren Cole went to visit a friend. He never walked away. The next morning, the city woke up angry. Phones buzzed before sunrise. News channels replayed the video again and again. Darren Cole's name was on every screen. People who had never heard of Maple Ridge Drive now knew it by heart. The quiet, rich neighborhood had become a symbol of something ugly that many tried to ignore. Outside the police station, the crowd had doubled overnight. People of all colors stood together. Some held signs, some held candles, some just stood there, silent, with tears in their eyes. A little boy asked his mother, "Why did they shoot him?" She didn't know how to answer. Inside a small meeting room downtown, the city mayor, Elaine Porter, sat with her hands folded tight. Her face looked tired. Across from her were police leaders, lawyers, and community members. The video played on a screen behind them, paused on the moment right before the shot. "There was no threat," said Angela Reed, a civil rights attorney. "He was shot in the back." The police chief, Daniel Moore, cleared his throat. "We are reviewing all facts." Angela leaned forward. "The facts are already there." Officer Ryan Holt stayed at home that day. Reporters waited outside his house, but he never came out. Inside, he sat on his couch, staring at the wall. He kept hearing the sound of the gunshot in his head. He kept telling himself the same lie. I was scared. But fear did not explain everything. Darren's family arrived from out of state that afternoon. His mother, Ruth Cole, walked slowly, supported by her sister. She looked small, like the world had suddenly grown too heavy. When she saw the place where Darren fell, she dropped to her knees. "My baby," she whispered. "He just went to help someone." Evan Brooks stood nearby, guilt crushing his chest. If I had told him to park closer, if I had walked out to meet him, his voice broke. Ruth held his hand anyway. "That wasn't your fault," she said. "You invited him. He trusted the world." That evening, the district attorney, Paul Henderson, held a press conference. Cameras flashed. The city held its breath. "We have reviewed the video footage and witness statements," Henderson said. "Officer Ryan Holt is officially removed from duty. Charges are being prepared." The crowd erupted. Some cried, some shouted. It wasn't justice yet, but it was a start. Officer Holt was arrested 2 days later. The image of him in handcuffs spread fast. People said they had never seen that happen before. Others said it was about time. The trial came quickly. The courtroom was packed every day. Darren's photo sat on a table, smiling, alive in a frame. Witness after witness spoke the same truth. He did not attack. He did not threaten. He did not run. When the verdict came, the room went silent. Guilty. Officer Holt was sentenced for killing an innocent man. No special treatment, no excuses. Outside the courthouse, Ruth Cole lifted her face to the sky. Tears rolled down, but her voice was strong. My son mattered, and the truth spoke. The street that was once too quiet would never forget. The day Officer Ryan Holt was sentenced, the city felt different. The air was heavy, but it was also clear, like after a storm when everything finally settles. People stood outside the courthouse from early morning. Some held signs with Darren Cole's face. Others held nothing at all, just their hands folded together, waiting. Inside the courtroom, it was quiet enough to hear breathing. Officer Holt stood at the front, no uniform this time, just a plain shirt and tired eyes. He looked smaller now, not powerful, not in control, just a man facing what he had done. Darren's family sat together in the front row. His mother, Ruth Cole, held a folded piece of paper in her hands. She had written something down the night before, but didn't know if she would be strong enough to read it. Evan Brooks sat beside her, his head lowered, his hands shaking. The judge, Harold Benton, looked over his glasses and spoke clearly. This court finds that Darren Cole was unarmed, calm, and posed no danger. The use of deadly force was unjustified. Officer Holt swallowed hard. You abused your power, the judge continued, and a life was taken for no reason. When the sentence was read, a soft gasp moved through the room. It wasn't light, it wasn't gentle, it was real time, prison time. Officer Holt closed his eyes. Ruth stood slowly. Her legs trembled, but she didn't sit back down. "May I speak?" she asked. The judge nodded. Ruth unfolded her paper. Her voice was quiet at first, but every word landed strong. My son was kind. He helped people. He trusted. He walked into a neighborhood and never walked out. Today, nothing brings him back, but today tells the world that his life mattered. Tears fell freely now. Even some people on the other side of the room wiped their eyes. Outside the courthouse, the crowd waited. When the doors opened and the news spread, there was no cheering, just deep breaths, hugs. Some people dropped to their knees and cried. That same week, changes began. New rules were announced, body cameras, stronger reviews, training that actually meant something. It didn't fix the past, but it pushed the future forward. Maple Ridge Drive changed too. The neighbors talked more. They looked at each other differently. Linda Myers placed flowers on the spot where Darren fell. A small plaque was added later. It read, "Justice begins when we see each other as human." Evan Brooks moved his business, not because he was afraid, but because he needed a place that didn't hold so much pain. Still, he spoke Darren's name often. In meetings, in interviews, in quiet moments alone. Justice had spoken. But the story wasn't over yet. Time moved forward, even though it felt wrong that it could. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The city learned to breathe again, but it never forgot. Darren Cole's name stayed alive, not just in headlines, but in conversations, classrooms, and quiet prayers. At a small park near downtown, a group of kids gathered every Saturday. They sat on folding chairs under a big oak tree. A sign nearby read, "The Darren Cole Youth Business Circle." Evan Brooks helped start it. He showed kids how to plan ideas, save money, and believe in themselves. Darren loved teaching, Evan would tell them, so now we do it for him. Ruth Cole visited often. She watched the kids laugh and argue over ideas like lemonade stands and shoe cleaning businesses. Sometimes she smiled, sometimes she cried, but she always stayed. "This is how he lives on," she said softly. The police department felt the change too. Officers walked slower. They talked more. They knew the city was watching, but more importantly, they knew the city was hurting. New officers were trained using Darren's story, not to scare them, but to remind them what power really means. Maple Ridge Drive no longer pretended nothing happened. The street held a yearly walk for peace. Neighbors who once hid behind curtains now stood together outside. They waved, they listened, they learned. One afternoon, a little girl pointed at the plaque and asked her dad, "Why is his name there?" Her dad knelt beside her. "Because someone did wrong," he said, "and the world chose to make it right." That was the part people held on to. Justice didn't erase the pain. It didn't heal every wound, but it showed that truth can stand up. That even when a life is taken unfairly, the story doesn't end in silence. Darren Cole walked into a neighborhood to help a friend. He left behind a lesson the world would never forget. And that lesson still speaks.